Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow.
Take the message, everybody.
Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do.
Ali and a friend of the acting top cop, and along with the security guard of the Mohammed's enterprise, has not been questioned about the murder of Paper Shorts. And so this is what the press conference is all about. Allegations leveled against Caesar and other top cops by Detective Sergeant Bascom. So they called this press conference to explain their side of the story, which didn't help. It didn't do anything to help them at all, period. And so at this press conference, they labeled Bascom, they call him all sort of names, liar and everything. Bascom decided to file a private criminal charge against, having to do with cybercrime bullying against Mr. Blanham, the crime chief. The DPP stepped in immediately to ensure that those charges were not going to see the light of day in court. And so she discontinues private cybercrime charge, sorry, not private criminal charge, but private cybercrime charge filed against the crime chief. The DPP discontinued those charges. And so after the police turned up, the police special prosecutor refused to hand over the tape. When asked by the magistrate, the special prosecutor, Mandel Moore, is claiming that the tape does not exist. The tape does not exist. That's all he has been saying. But yet the evidence proves that there is a high possibility that they recorded this this press conference. Look at the evidence. It suggests that they recorded the press conference. And I don't know why. Maybe it is pretty obvious why they do not want the public or do not want to present that as evidence in the court. Hence, a rebroadcast of this entire police press conference. And I believe it was on August the 17th. Listen to this press conference. You be the judge. And if the police force, if they want a copy of it, they're free to record, they're free to present it in court, and it's coming live. On that day, it was broadcast live right here on 107.1 FM. So as we prepare to head into that press conference, prepare to do a rebroadcast of the press conference, we ask you, members of the public, the viewing audience and the listening audience, to be the judge in this particular situation and to say who is doing the lying. Is the police lying? Is the general public lying? Or what is it that's happening here? In my view, the police is straying from the truth. Let's get right into that press conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, please note that some of what you're going to be seeing and hearing has explicit language. So we would like to have you caution if this is going live, to caution some of the viewers, but it is necessary for what the DCLE is about to do in this presentation.
You can change them.
Anything any better or no?
Blair. Come on, Blair. You want to play the video? Ready to start? Good evening, Commissioner of Police, senior officers from the Ghana Police Force, members of the media, thank you for coming. This evening, we are here to debunk the false allegations made by Sergeant Leon Boscom. And let me go right into the presentation. So the order, Leon Boscom alleges that Rhonda Marcus was put in as a suspect for more than 80 charges, and that he was supposed to be killed to take the fall for the murder of Mr. Fagundes. However, what is important to note is the Ghana police force wishes to submit that it was Roger Khan, his lawyer, who made the claim that Rhonda Marcus was one of the suspects captured on the CCTV footage who opened fire on the unrecorded Fagundes. Khan also said that he has information that Mark Richmond was the driver of the getaway car. The Boscom's claims are malicious and untrue. And what the Ghana Police Force has also sought to do is to provide evidence. And this is a WhatsApp conversation between the lawyer for Roger Khan and the police. Roger Khan, through his attorney at law, and this is the facts, Roger Khan, through his attorney at law, provided the information to the police on the 1st of April 2021 via WhatsApp at 1800 hours and sent the telephone numbers for Rondell Bacchus and Mark Richmond. He also sent pictures of Rondell Bacchus and that of several men in uniform of the WhatsApp information there. We're giving you credible information, we're giving you evidence to support our position. So the Ghana Police Force, the Criminal Investigation Department, investigators did not take the information.
Sorry, as I just interject for a moment, I paused just to have you know it's a rebroadcast of the press conference held by the Ghana Police Force, the crime chief there speaking, and the acting commissioner of police. It's today's Sunday, and rebroadcasting this. It's 43 minutes after 7 o'clock, wherever you are. And I just thought to put things into context, the reason why this is being rebroadcast, and I decided to just come live for a quick minute to explain to you guys, even though I know most of you probably already know that this is an old press conference that they jumped as quickly as possible to crucify Mr. Bascom. Policeman Bascom, a member of the Guyana Police Force, came publicly to say about the corruption in the covering up of the Fagundes murder. The Fagundes murder in front of Palm Court. Let me just say quickly before I allow you guys to listen to the press conference again. Senior officers, senior law enforcement officers are collaborating or corroborating in terms of what Mr. Bascom has said. And they have even taken it further, saying that the installed president of Guyana, the installed president of Guyana has allegedly instructed, and that's Irfan Ali, has allegedly instructed, I repeat, allegedly instructed the Commissioner of Police or the senior officers of the Guyana Police Force to discontinue the investigations into the murder of Fagundes. Fagundes was murdered 2 years ago, I believe, or so, in front of Palm Court. We're now hearing that allegations are that Irfan Ali instructed the Commissioner of Police to discontinue the investigations. Now, this allegation is a very serious allegation leveled against quote unquote head of state. And this allegation, this latest allegation, is not something that should be covered up or should be taken lightly. The other allegation, based on our sources, is that Omar Khan, who is now the Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force, and when he was director of the spy unit, the NSA, the spy unit, spy agency, in a meeting instructed that the CCTV cameras in the vicinity of Palm Court, which also includes the in front of State House, the installed president is temporarily at, that all those CCTV cameras should be disabled. Not so long after the murder of Fagundes took place. Now, we're not saying that the Chief of Staff is guilty of being complicit in the murder of Fagundes. We just want to make it as clear as possible that we are not accusing the Chief of Staff of being part and parcel of the murder. But what is of concern is what was the reason for the CCTV cameras to be disabled just prior to the death of Fagundes. And this is why we're asking the Chief of Staff this question. And we're saying the allegations are that he instructed that those CCTV cameras be disabled. If that's accurate, then the Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force would have to say why those instructions were passed, assuming that they were correct. However, our sources are saying that it is accurate, that in a meeting, the discussion of disabling the CCTV camera took place at the highest level of law enforcement and the government. So lots of things, questionable things are happening in the country with allegations of involvement at the highest level of government and the highest level of the Guyana Police Force. We heard recently that Barra Jagdeo allegedly instructed the Commissioner of Police to discontinue the murder investigation or the abduction investigation into a former member of the Guyana Police Force. Since we broke that story, 2 days after, the police finally, after close to 6 months, they finally issued wanted bulletins, one for Mark Cromwell, also known as Demon. He has since changed it from Demon to Diamond. And so this is just a cover-up, another cover-up. We will deal with this maybe tomorrow or sometime in the coming days. But you will see what the cover-up is all about. Demon is still roaming around in Buxton and other places. The police, they aren't really after him. This is just another cover-up. That's all it is. So don't be surprised if he walks in tomorrow with his lawyer. Let's get back to this here. The Fagundes murder, the allegations that the acting top cop, who Irfan and others are rushing to possibly confirm very soon. He may be confirmed. But before we get to that, there are serious questions and they need answers. Did the commissioner, the acting commissioner of police, cover up the murder of Fagundes? And is there a connection to the disabling of those CCTV cameras and the murder? Those are questions. Again, we're not accusing, we're just asking questions. And they're officials. They are law enforcement officials, they need to respond to these serious concerns. So back to the press conference again in context. After Fagundes was murdered, police saw the top-ranking members of the Guyana, officials of the Guyana police force, thought that it's so important that they have to rush to do a press conference. They haven't done a press conference with what not taking Brutus 240 charges, never before. 240 charges. There's no press conference. There's nothing. Hicken has been so silent. But why is it that they just rushed for a press conference to talk about the covering up? Bascom, Detective Sergeant Bascom spoke about it. They rushed after Bascom. They persecuted Bascom. He's now off the force, at least interdicted. And that is what they have done to cover up their tracks. But what are they going to do now when they hear that senior officers of the Guyana police force are now saying identical thing Bascom has said, that this is a cover-up. The murder of Fagundes is a cover-up. And it is alleged that Irfan Ali instructed Hicken and senior members of the Guyana police force to discontinue with the murder. So let's continue with this press conference that was held 2 years ago to keep the Fagundes murder fresh in your minds and to understand that there are different levels of corruption and covering up.
What was done is that checks were made at the prison since the last information that was fed to the police was that Rondell Buffers may or may not be in prison. A senior prison official indicated that he was no longer in prison as Rondell Buffers. But what he further ventured out to say is that, that there's information or chatter from prisoners that one of the men in the video footage obtained at the crime scene appeared to be Rondell Buffers. That's information which you were able to confirm with an official from the Guyana Prison Service. As a result, checks were made at the place of abode for Mr. Rondell Buffers. But these checks proved futile. Moving on, contacting and arresting Mr. Buffers became a matter of urgency as investigators need to have the hands smug for one shot residue. And information, as I said, we didn't take it at face value. We got all the sources also, right? We confirmed, we showed them the videos, the videos that we retrieved at the crime scene, and they're saying that it may or may not be Rondell Buffers. So as I said before, we're showing evidence to support our position that the police didn't target Rondell Buffers as is being falsely peddled by Mr. Dion Boston. We have evidence to show that from day one, it was Mr. Khan through his attorney at law. Let me go to the next slide. This is not working. Good. A wanted bulletin gives our response to his allegations that a wanted bulletin was issued on the 6th of April 2021 for Rondell Buffers, and 1 hour later he turned himself in with his attorney at law, and not in company of Mr. Dion Boscom, as he was seen misleading the public during his Facebook Live, claiming that the police wanted to kill Rondell Buffers. A screenshot of the Culture News article confirming this is shown to the right. The police station diary and the Criminal Investigation Department also confirms that Mr. Boscom is being untruthful. Conclusion. Based on the foregoing, Dion Boscom's claim that he brought information about Mark Richmond to the police, which he said also is easily debunked as a deliberate falsehood and malicious in nature. that he brought Randall Bacchus to the police is a deliberate falsehood and malicious in nature. And it's not, you're not only getting information from the police, you have the information there, the clippings from the police. Let us go to Mr. Mark Richmond. His name was being making rounds on social media and print media. Dion Boscom did admit that the police made efforts to contact Mr. Mark Richmond and even search his residence. Moving on. After the search of the residence for Mark Richmond, Boscom allegedly informed one of his superiors that a popular businessman from Essequibo was using him to go after Mark Richmond, who's known to him. Investigators have knowledge that Boscom and the said businessman are close friends. Their close links were already established by investigators. So, in concluding, based on the foregoing, Dion Boscom's claim that no further action was taken in relation to Mark Richmond are clearly misleading and false, since it was he who told investigators that it was a businessman from Essequibo who had a personal problem with Mark Richmond's employer. He further indicated that the businessman wanted to use him. Moving on to the next slide.
I was transferred because I got the information that I told you about this guy Mark Richmond that threatened me. Right? So I got transferred because I got the information about somebody threatening me. And I went on report to someone and we do not.
This is another blatant lie that was told by Mr. Dion Boscom. As you can see on your right, you have a WhatsApp message between the journalist who spoke to Mr. Boscom, confirming that Mr. Boscom was in contact with him, and he did not mention Mr. Boscom's name in the article. And he said he wanted to protect Mr. Boscom. So there you have it. Dion Boscom claimed he never leaked any information to the press. The journalist confirmed that Dion Boscom was his source, and he did not name him because the guy needed protection, as is shown in the screenshot to the right. Why Boscom has to lie about this? We all know why. Conclusion: based on the foregoing, Boscom claimed that he didn't leak information to the press is easily debunked as being false, untrue, and malicious in nature. So you have the information there on the slide, and we're going to provide you with information. We did not indicate the name of the reporter or which media entity that report is working. Moving on to the next slide.
Before we go to the next slide, you notice what the crime chief Lanham has just said. The objective of this press conference that was held 2 years ago was to basically cover up their tracks up and to make it appear that Detective Boscom is a liar. That is the purpose of this press conference. Notice they spoke about who Dion Boscom works for. Maybe at that time. I'm not sure what Dion Boscom is up to these days, since he seemed to be out of the news. But they're not talking about, they're not telling people who they may be protecting. They're not telling people that whether they were instructed by the Mohammeds. Now, I'm not, they got to tell you guys whether they were instructed by the Mohammeds to call this press conference, instructed by Mohammed Irfan Ali as well. So a lot of things so untruthful about this press conference, and the haste in which they rushed after Dion Boscom is quite telling. And we can just assume why they held this press conference. It is not a press conference to seek justice or to go after the perpetrators and to solve a murder matter. In fact, it was the U.S. also. This is what the U.S. said on that matter. As we pull that up, we'll get back to the press conference so you guys can read between the lines. It was the U.S., I believe, that spoke about the covering up also. The U.S. spoke about the covering up of the covering up of the murder of Fagundes. So the U.S. administration spoke about that. Bascom spoke about the covering up. Let me just let you guys know that senior police officers, law enforcement officers, are now talking about the covering up of Fagundes' murder. Now back to the press conference.
So you have the information.
They use everything and they try out your answer to get no fucking technology more. You understand? Park up outside. We park up outside, we have to one laptop and check the number, put the personal number, they show that was on the spot, the 90 fucking paper sharks.
Mr. Bascom's claims are absurd, ridiculous, and at the same time hilarious. I've had colleagues from other Caribbean territories who called me and asked me to borrow that device that we have, whereby you can go to a scene, a crime scene, and input the number for a suspect, and automatically the number comes up. Let me state clearly that the Guyana Police Force does not have any device to identify criminals at the crime scene, as was falsely peddled by Bascom. For the Guyana Police Force technical officer, we have one technical officer, has denied these claims by Bascom, as he maintains that Bascom was never at the crime scene with him. Therefore, Bascom is not being honest once again in this regard, is manufacturing false or concocted information out of malice.
Let me say that Mr. Blanham is saying that it's a blatant lie what Bascom is alleging, and that there's no device to track numbers of suspects. This is Bascom, Dion Bascom, the crime chief. Mr. Blanham is saying that Mr. Bascom is a liar. The police force has an equipment that track numbers of suspects. You key that in the device, and it's able to track you through your number and locate you where you are. And I'm saying this to the crime chief, that at no point in time the technical person in the Guyana Police Force who is responsible for that equipment ever said anything to contradict Mr. Bascom. Never said anything to contradict Mr. Bascom. In fact, based on information, the technical person may have what Hicken and Blanham probably did right after this press conference was to remove the equipment from individuals' hands and place it in the hands of other persons. They are probably have more kind of like confidence that they will all have whatever remain amongst themselves, if you could read between the lines there. So a lot of untruth are being peddled at this press conference to cover up a murder. In fact, it is the U.S. law enforcement agencies or U.S. State Department who has said just that the Fagundes murder was covered up by the Guyana Police Force. Bascom has said it, and now senior law enforcement officers of the Guyana Police Force are saying the same thing, that it was a cover-up, and that allegations are that the head of state, Irfan instructed that the investigation comes to a halt, a complete halt. Let's continue.
I'm not getting into change.
I have to tell you that Mr. Ghana was responsible for me for journey, from time to time, tell them to put in the trouble. You got to go right to family, tell that Mr. Ghana, tell them to put in the trouble.
This is another astonishing claim by Mr. Bascom. We have the evidence to support the contrary to what was spelled by Mr. Bascom. Bascom said that the police was responsible for his picture being leaked to the video. Please see screenshot of media personnel being directed to the head of Kanu for information on Bascom's arrest. Once again, we have the evidence, and that's why we're sharing it with members of the public. On the final slide, false allegation about police cover-up. What is unknown to Mr. Bascom is that the Ghana police force is currently being assisted by an internationally recognized law enforcement agency in conducting the recording of Fagundes murder. Several foreign experts / investigators.
Let us stop for a moment. That's another lie. That's a lie. They cannot name who these foreign experts are. They cannot name which agency or agencies these foreign experts are from. And so to do that is to basically say that this whole investigation was transparent, when in fact it wasn't transparent. What we do recall is that regional security officers for CARICOM was in the country, drank a couple of beers with them, never once. And if they were concerned, these, as Mr. Blanham is trying to hoodwink you guys into saying that several law enforcement officers and investigators were in the country for the Fagundes murder, right? You can't name who they are. But how is it that if an investigation is being conducted, why is it none of them, according to information, none of them ever met with Mr. Bascom, who is the whistleblower? And if you're going to conduct a proper investigation, well, guess what? You have to talk to the man who is saying that there is corruption in the Guyana police force as it pertains to that particular murder. Why is it none of them ever approached Mr. Bascom? That's the question. So listen, you guys are big and you have sense and you know who's actually lying and who's not lying. But thus far, we know that Bascom is not lying. We know that the source law enforcement officers who are now saying that there was a cover-up to join with Bascom to say there was a cover-up. The U.S. State Department said in their report that the murder of Fagundes is a cover-up by the Guyana police force. So I don't know what Mr. Blanham is talking about, but international law enforcement agencies were part of the investigations. I'd call on Mr. Bascom to say whether it was the FBI, whether it was Scotland Yard, whether it's the Mounted Branch, which agency. You can't say some private investigator from Queen's Bottom House went and said, and never met with Bascom. If the FBI were part of the investigations, the first thing would be to speak to Bascom. If Mounted Branch, the first thing, speak to Bascom. If Scotland Yard, the first thing would be speak to Bascom. Nobody spoke to Bascom. So how fair could that fictitious investigation, that what is it, fairy tale investigations by international law enforcement agencies? Stop it. It's baloney.
That is unit initial stage of the program and provided valuable assistance to our investigators. Let me hasten to say also that the items recovered from the crime scene were also sent overseas for analysis. We're still awaiting the results from the analysis. This is unknown to Mr. Bascom. So you're pointing fingers that the Guyana police force is covering up this investigation. Are you pointing fingers?
Here it is again. It's 2 years now. Mr. Blanham has said that they have sent certain things for examination overseas, and they're still awaiting the results. Can Mr. Blanham say what agency, where they sent this, and to whom, and whether they have gotten the results? It's 2 years now, over 2 years now. It's only fair someone asks whether they have gotten the results, and in the interest of transparency, where they sent the samples. Where? Is it to some FBI lab in the US? Is it to Borbies? Where did they send the results? And are they still awaiting the results? That's all. Ask and then you'll find more into this particular matter.
Say that our overseas counterparts are also covering up this investigation. That is how ridiculous and absurd these allegations are. In concluding, I want to submit that these source which is submitted here on Boston is not being honest, and he is manufacturing false or concocted information out of malice against members of the Guyana Police Force, and it all stems from his arrest and detention by Kanu investigators. And finally, the head of Kanu will have also released a press statement debunking claims made by Mr.
All right, so here's what's happening. They knew that Dion Bascom was upset, and they attempted to plant marijuana or whatever on him. Kanu Head, let's not even talk about Kanu Head right now. The head of Kanu, because it might just raise some eyebrows in international quarters. Some of those folks in international quarters might not have favorable things to say about the head of Kanu right now. That's just my opinion, mind you. So all of this stuff that they're trying to paint a picture that Bascom is a liar. Now, Bascom might not be an angel. That's none of my business. What I'm talking about, because in life you hear some good things and you hear some bad things. Same here with me. You might hear that Mark is such a nice, beautiful guy, angel, which is true. But right, you got me on that. And so picture what these two guys are saying, Hicken and Blanham. Blanham actually, let a public record, but Blanham is not going to say to you guys that he has failed the polygraph test. He has failed his polygraph test conducted by, he likes to use the term, law enforcement outside of Guyana. Yes, law enforcement outside of Guyana, facilitated by particular mission in Guyana, and he failed his lie detector test. So now if you have a man, a senior police officer who has failed his lie detector test, who has failed the polygraph test, why do you think that we must sit and believe the man who has failed this polygraph test? That's just a question, rhetorical one. Let's head back to this so-called cover-up, this cover-up press conference.
Thank you, and that's the extent of my belief.
Thank you very much. We know that it's a busy time, close to the end of the cycle. So what we will do through chair, which is the application of police, open the floor for just 5 questions. You can identify your media house and ask a question, and the person will be answered.
News source. Mr. Commissioner, quickly, this seems like a very unusual step. The Guyana Police Force, after putting forward a case of DPP and awaiting advice, coming out to present evidence to the media. There was no press conference when Fagundes was shot. There was no press conference with so many other high-profile cases. Why the need to come out and look for a point presentation to go line by line if you are so convinced that what this gentleman has been saying is all wrong? Have you been directed to come before the media?
No, first of all, I'm the acting commissioner and I'm superintending public force. It's a sergeant of police making these type of allegations. And so that is a senior subordinate officer. And we thought it is necessary for us to be here. Our press conference prepared that. And so we're still waiting on the findings of the DPP, the investigation. But this was necessary. You are known why it's necessary. That is not a concept, that's a sergeant.
Sir, so you say
Let's pause there for a moment, and that's a good question there by Gordon Mosley. There was this ongoing investigations and a lot of frivolous charges, corruption The DPP's chambers never read some of these statements. There were no statements, and they rushed to charge Dion Bascom. Now, they held this press conference even while there was an investigation against Mr. Bascom. And so they weren't concerned about the outcome of the investigations. They injected themselves in basically crucifying Mr. Bascom to say that he's a liar and he's this and all manner of things they attempted to do, and they did throw the books at Mr. Bascom in order to cover up their tracks. That is what they have done. And we are seeing and we are hearing lots and lots of new evidence pointing in the direction of interference at the highest level of government and the highest level of the Guyana police force. So how can we believe these guys? Even when they conducted a press conference, we knew that they weren't telling the truth. And it's coming out now, guys. I repeat, it's coming out now.
What investigation was done when the statement by Mr. Bascom was in to the police? The statements in February of this year. Because apparently this is the records. So what did we do before this coming out versus Facebook?
Dennis, as a good friend, let me answer you this way. I was not the acting commissioner.
You were not
The acting commissioner in February.
I know, but what the police force is an institution. When the reports were first filed, one to the police station, two to the VR.
Like I said, as a commissioner, I superintend over the force now, and I can tell you what I did when I took over the helm of the force. Prior to that, I was deputy commissioner operations, responsible for the commissioner and like that.
So this then tell us what the police force probably done at that time when you were profile.
Which report are you referring?
Statements made by this Bascom to the police force in February.
An investigation was conducted by the Office of Professional Responsibility, and that is to the best of my knowledge. And Mr. Bascom denied ever speaking to the press. So in terms of the status of that investigation, I think now with the evidence that we have.
Let me just say there to you guys that the Office of Special Responsibility is headed by a senior police officer and a retired police officer, the staff, police officers, police men and women, and the Office of Professional Responsibility is not an independent body. It is not a body that you can consider to be fair. The police cannot investigate police. Ex-police cannot investigate serving members of the Guyana police force. But what they're not saying to you is what the Police Complaints Authority has said about this matter. They're not going to tell you that. Again, as we review what is happening here, they are covering up their tracks. Lots of things will come out of this situation. Lots of things. And I'll prove to you guys in just a couple of minutes how the crime chief strayed from the truth. I'm not saying that he has lied. I'm just saying that he has strayed from the truth. The acting top cop has strayed from the truth when they said that foreign law enforcement officers assisted with the investigations and that they have sent samples overseas. We have not heard anything about those samples as yet, and they're not saying where. In the interest of transparency, these are public servants. They're being paid by taxpayers. They have a duty to tell the nation, apart from the RSS, Regional Security Service, through CARICOM, the officer was there, and I'll tell you about what the findings were and how tainted it was. We have heard from the U.S. State Department, and I'll prove to you where it is that these two guys are lying when they said, well, they strayed from the truth when they said that international law enforcement agencies were part of the investigations. They need to say who are those international law enforcement agencies other than the RSS.
The evidence will be sent to the OPR for them to conduct further investigation.
Apart from the whether or not he spoke with Whistleblower, there were similar claims that were made in those statements that he has made now. And secondly, as Caesar been questioning of these investigations.
If you were speaking before in February, I'm not going to respond to that. Like I said, I wasn't at the head of the court then. If you're speaking to now, OPR dealt with it in the investigation and the final submitted based on their findings. When we would have had the legal advice, we're going to make that public.
If I may, I'm not aware that in February, when the matter was first ventilated, that he made any allegation about corruption and pointing fingers at Mr. Caesar. So I'm not aware of that. Now he's making allegation about Mr. Caesar being involved in corruption. Mr. Caesar since retained an attorney at law. And
the same Caesar that they're talking about, it's the same Caesar that was pulled in by US law enforcement agencies for fitness. The same Caesar was pulled in for that. Yet they're saying that, yet this crime chief is saying he's unaware. And again, here we go. Bascom scored another point there. Caesar was pulled in by US law enforcement agents and questioned at the airport. Barra Jagdeo acknowledged that at a so-called press conference, and he said that when Caesar returns to Guyana, that was then that he will get some answers from Caesar. I don't know why, but Caesar's back in Guyana. And this is the same Caesar, allegations of corruption and corruption. Allegations, mind you. And let me just say, senior police officers of the Guyana Police Force have also listed Caesar as quote unquote, they're alleging that he is corrupt as well. So not just Bascom, and mind you, I want to use the word they're alleging. I don't know what Caesar told the law enforcement officers in the US. I don't know, don't ask me. But the word alleged is being used here, right, Caesar? So we're not saying that you're corrupt. We're saying that it is alleged that you are corrupt. But let's head back. So Bascom may be scoring some points on these things, and we're getting to see exactly what Bascom said and what is being told by some of these law enforcement officers. So maybe they're singing to other people outside of the jurisdiction there in Guyana. Who knows? Again, all I'm saying, who knows? Let's get back to this so-called press conference.
to commence civil litigation. Well, continue. And was any investigation done? Okay. First and foremost, the information that was submitted to me is that Boston claimed that an individual called him and said he wants me, come and get me at XYZ place. Whether that's a threat or not, I won't be able to say. And I don't want to get my mouth diverted. As is customary, every police detective, they will tell you that from time to time, persons will threaten you. And the standard operating procedure, we always leave an occurrence. Mr. Boscom, to the best of my knowledge, was advised to go to Breakdown Police Station and make a report. The Criminal Investigation Department, we do not investigate threats. So a report, as I was told, was made at the Breakdown Police Station. Whether Mr. Boscom follow up with his report or not, I won't be able to say. Mr. Boscom, as Commissioner mentioned, and you always sergeant of police, the support officer.
Now, hear the stupidity in this. The crime chief of the Guyana Police Force is saying they do not take reports on threats. This is not just an ordinary threat. This is a threat, according to Dion Bascom, a sitting member of the Guyana Police Force, And what Mr. Lanham, the crime chief of the Guyana Police Force, is saying, no, no, no. They said, no, we don't report, we don't investigate those sort of things. Now, you see the hypocrisy there, right? A serving member of the Guyana Police Force, the crime chief is saying that they don't, at the Criminal Investigations Department, they do not take such report, and that Mr. Bascom was advised to go to Brickdown Police Station to make a report. We were told back then that Mr. Bascom did just that, and nothing ever become of that report. Absolutely nothing. But the mission was very clear, was to go after Bascom by every and any means necessary. So you guys are smart. It's a Sunday evening, 25 minutes after 8 o'clock. You're smart enough to read between the lines what's happening. And so the latest revelations, again, just to fill you in, is that it is being reported that Irfan Ali instructed the acting commissioner of police, allegedly instructed the acting commissioner of police and other senior members of the Guyana Police Force to discontinue the investigations into the murder of Fagundes. We're told also that the then head of the spy unit, Mr. Omar Khan, who is now head of the Guyana Defense Force, in a meeting with top officials, law enforcement officials, and government officials, instructed that the cameras, the CCTV cameras, be disabled next to Palm Court and State House and so forth. And not so long after, the murder occurred. And so we're not saying that the Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force is complicit. We're just asking the questions. And we're asking the question to the Acting Commissioner of Police, who Irfan incidentally wants to confirm sometime this coming week. Now let's head back to the press conference that hastily put together to cover up public perception, that is, to cover up their tracks.
Mr. Commissioner, going back to Mr. Bascom and this entire situation now, and I'm coming back to why the need to come before the media. There was an accident recently where someone was hit down, a fatal accident involving a particular member of a particular family. And we saw the police force rush to put out video surveillance. Now again, there's a particular family being named in this. And we see the police force for the first time in about 3 years, by my count, coming before the media to deal with this situation. Is the police force being forced to come out and defend some of these cases because of its particular cozy relationship with some members of the business community?
Warren, I'm not going to speak to previous commissioners.
These all happened after February.
No, I don't need to. You're my friend, and I want jail guard. Come on, I'm not like that. No, outside of the press conference that we had, we didn't rush the press conference. You're a journalist. You know when this incident occurred. Today is Wednesday, and so rush came 24 hours after. We didn't rush anything. Gardner to start, and the influence that can be had from the general public is that this man is a sergeant and he must know what he's saying. And it's important for us as we go forward to regain that trust based on perception of theirs. And this is necessary. I was saying at the helm of the force, I'm transforming this force into a more contemporary police force where we're open and we can deal with members of the public one-on-one. And so there is no rush or there is no influence over this. This is generally, and you know me, this is generally my side of policing. And this will continue to prevail. Thank you, Gordon. And please, my friend, and
if I may, Commissioner Gordon, maybe this is the first press conference that we were attending in 3 years. Our last press conference we addressed the issue in Escobar when the SWAT member allegedly shot a civilian.
It was not virtual, I mean in person.
Oh, and well, we not COVID.
And sir,
Final question.
I know you mentioned that the police force is not in possession of any equipment that can sort of triangulate phone calls or phone numbers. Are you aware, or could you say that it's a practice for police members to use their private devices with personal software that can essentially do some of these things to aid them in, their crime fighting tactics or their crime fighting investigations? Don't police officers use their own stuff at night?
I cannot speak to something that I'm not aware of. And I'm not, as I said already, in the general position, regarding police force, he's claiming that an officer went to the computer. This is not cell phone, Mr. Gordon. A computer, as we said, at court, and then put some information on this particular individual telephone number came up. That is not true. Not a cell phone, I'm telling you about a computer. We have obtained a statement with the loan technical officer debunking the false allegation that he made against him.
Do you think Bascom is still fit to serve in the Gallop Police Force?
I don't prejudge cases.
But you're here on the case laying it out.
But Arden, let me just remind you that we're friends, so you can afford it, okay, money.
But that's what the microphone.
Police men and women took a note, and there is some ethical behavior in our enforcement. I made a press statement that some going to the media and using these profanities publicly, other than the allegations that were made against senior ranks, that is unbecoming as a witness. There's a process, disciplinary process, to deal with such a behavior. And so, for that process to commence, we await the findings or the legal advice of the DPP. I can tell you, there's a process that must be followed.
We seem to be having some technical problems at their end, not our end. I just thought I'd make that point lucidly clear to you, that some audio problems at their end. We'll try to see how quickly we can have that fixed so that you guys can continue with listening to the Nancy stories that we're hearing. What's in the middle of the screen there, you're seeing the polygraph test that policemen took about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. That's as a result of that was taken through the U.S. Embassy. A lot of senior officers failed that polygraph test exam, failed it. And that piece of information that is not properly fitted across the screen, you can see it says secret there. It's a document which we do have in our possession with all of the police officers, every single one of them who have actually passed and those who have failed their polygraph test. But as soon as we get the audio back up and running, I just want to clear a few things that this misinformation being peddled by some of these senior police officers, especially when I believe it's Mr. Blanham who said that, or gave the impression that foreign or folks in other law enforcement agencies outside of Guyana do work with them on, and hinted that there's a possibility that foreign law enforcement officers may have been working on the Fagundes case. That I can say it doesn't sound as though it is something that is credible at all. Far from that. But let's check what's the situation with the audio, and we'll be back. As we tend to find out what's going on with the audio, it's not at our end. Let me just make that clear. Mr. Blanham said that they were foreign law enforcement officers who were part of the investigations. Let me just say that this is part of a report by the U.S. State Department, and this was issued after, of course, the murder of Fagundes. It says here, in its 2022 Human Rights Report released on Monday, corruption of police officers was frequent in 2022. I repeat, this is from the U.S. State Department report saying, in its 2022 Human Rights Report on Monday, corruption of police officers was frequent in 2022. One of the major corruption scandals was that of senior investigating officers of the Force's Criminal Investigation Department, CID, accepted 30.
All right, sorry about that. We are coming to the end of that press conference.
30, I repeat. 30 million bribe to cover up the 2021 murder of Fagundes. This is the U.S. State Department is talking about this, but you will get the impression from the acting commissioner of police, Mr. Clifton Hicken. You will get the impression from the crime chief, Mr. Bladum, that all was well. But let me read over the U.S. State Department report on this particular matter. In its 2022 Human Rights Report, released on Monday, corruption of police officers was frequent in 2022. One of the major corruption scandals was that of senior investigating officers of the Force's Criminal Investigation Unit Department, CID, accepted a $30 million a bribe to cover up the 2021 murder of Fagundes. Now, this is not Bascom saying it. This is not, or let us say, Ben Shop saying it. This is not any one of you in the audience, Neville Seatal, Keith Beresford, or Jillian, or Booker, or Parker, or, this is not you. This is coming from the United States State Department. Is talking about corruption and the allegation of $30 million Guyana dollars to cover up as bribe to cover up the murder of Fagundes. I'm almost certain that Caesar, when he was questioned by U.S. law enforcement agents at the airport, maybe he was asked about this, the allegations of bribe to cover up the Fagundes murder. Now, to continue, it says, the U.S. State Department report says, in August, police officer Dion Bascom alleged that a businessman bribed members of the Guyana Police Force to foil an investigation into an execution-style killing of Ricardo Fagundes, a gold miner. As of October 2022, police had not investigated Bascom's claims, the U.S. Department of State said. You guys are hearing it for yourselves, but yet at the press conference, only God knows what they want you guys to think. Now, the crime chief said not so long ago, he just said it. Minutes ago, he said it. He said that they have no way to go after and to investigate, again, I repeat, and to investigate laptop or probably trace people's, there's no such device or whatever. That might be yet another lie. Might very well be yet another lie by the individuals there at that press conference, because it was a U.S. ambassador, Mr. Perry Holloway, who gifted the Guyana Police Force a laptop computer to help with their investigations. And you know what that laptop computer may very well be. But you guys can read between the lines what's happening here, right? Let's continue.
not really much more that we can listen to that, but I just want to make a couple of points. First of all, let's touch on this hastily put together press conference. Irfan Ali is currently out of the country in Trinidad and Tobago on a quote unquote state visit. He met with the acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Clifton Hicken, and instructed Hicken to do exactly. We can just basically place that educated guess that Irfan Ali instructed Hicken to host a press conference.
And this is going back to what I said over 2 years ago, that there was a possibility at that time that Irfan Ali instructed Hicken to discontinue the investigations. Senior law enforcement officers are saying the same thing in 2024, that Clifton Hicken allegedly received instructions from the installed head of state, Irfan Ali, to discontinue the investigations into the murder of Fagundes. An unrelated matter, the same allegations we're hearing that Bharat Jagdev has instructed Hicken again and other senior members of the Guyana Police Force to discontinue the investigations into the abduction of former policeman Dylan Alexander. After we broke that story here, 2 days after, they have issued a so-called wanted bulletin for Mark Cromwell, also known as Demon. Let me just remind you guys that this is not going anywhere, just like the Fagundes murder, until law enforcement agencies outside of Guyana decide to hold those corrupt officials in the PPP regime and corrupt officials in the Guyana Police Force accountable.
Reason why Irfan Ali, this is the reason why this press conference has been held minutes ago. The other thing is, it's coincidental, right, that 15 minutes prior to the press conference, this guy, who happens to be, his name is calling, and his company, he being a suspect in the murder of Fagundes, along with a security guy from his company. And now these guys have been silent throughout the process, throughout this murder investigations and so forth. And suddenly the murder investigation shut down, completely shut down. We heard nothing from anyone about what was going on. And the family members of Mr. Fagundes, who was murdered, were basically kept in the loop. They just didn't know what was happening. And no one took the time, absolutely no one took the time to explain to the family what's the situation with their loved one. That is Fagundes, who was murdered. So everyone remained quiet for all these months. Over a year, they have remained surprisingly quiet. Now, suddenly, everyone is rushing. Everyone is rushing to make a statement. Everyone is rushing to make a statement.
All right, as we prepare to wind down tonight, you've heard a story again about the murder of Fagundes, and a policeman who's a whistleblower came out to say that there's massive corruption and cover-up in the Guyana Police Force. We're seeing it, we're hearing it. A senior member of the Guyana Police Force, Brutus, has recently been charged 240 charges. Never before. I'm not sure that there's anybody in Guyana with 240 charges. I'm just not sure at all that has ever happened. Not anybody. And the last person was this guy charged with Ponzi scheme. And that story, that Ponzi scheme guy, that's another cover up there. We will tell you guys about that cover up. We can't give you guys all the meat in just one cooking. We got to spread it out, right? And so Dion Bascom spoke about these very things, the corruption at high levels in the Guyana police force, and he was upset. He was there. He saw what was happening with investigations, and he decided to speak out. And we must commend Mr. Bascom for that, and other individuals who are now speaking out. Lots of folks are now speaking out in the Guyana police force about corruption at the highest level. Lots of folks are speaking out, even from the PPP regime, about corruption right there. We urge you guys to continue to speak up, speak out about corruption at every level, whether the governmental level or in the police force. Just got some information. Well, we've had this information for a while, just waiting for the right time. The acting commissioner of police must say to the public whether this property or these properties belong to him. And it's interesting, though, these senior police guys seem to own a lot of things. And now I'm not just going to say that, yes, this is the property of the acting commissioner of police. According to information, it is alleged to be the property of the acting top cop. The top cop must now say whether it's his property, these are his properties or not. Quite a lot of properties around town. The other thing the acting top cop should say to the public is whether he has a connection. There's a connection between him and this guy. This guy is one of the main suspects in the murder of Fagundes, and whether Mr. Hicken, the acting commissioner of police, has some family ties, or maybe had during that time family ties with this guy, who was said to be the partner of a close family member of Mr. Hicken. And Mr. Hicken must confirm whether this is accurate or not. And during the time of the investigations of the Paper Shorts murder, this guy is said to be one of the main suspects, Mark Richmond. Again, I'm asking the question whether there was a family connection between Mr. Hicken and the suspect, Mark Richmond, at that time. And of course, at the press conference, he did not reveal that there was a connection, if at all there was. And if there was a connection at that time, then the acting commissioner of police should have made that clear to the public. But the question tonight to Mr. Hicken is whether, one, there was a connection, a family connection between him and this suspect of the Paper Shorts murder. We already know of the connections between him, and we can see in the photograph here, there's a connection. Whatever that connection is, Hicken may have to tell law enforcement agencies maybe one day outside of Guyana. What else is it that we can speak of before we go? Brutus is home sleeping comfortably tonight. We heard news that he was asked to vacate the apartment. By tomorrow, we probably should get some more information on that. And hopefully by then, Mr. Hicken can confirm whether these properties are his or not. And by then, Mark Cromwell, also known as Demon, may surrender to the police with his lawyer, because this whole wanted bulletin is just a show in order to cover up the tracks of Barra Jack Dale. And by tomorrow, we may have some more information, allegations of Jack Dale. He has a bank account, in China with billions of US dollars. So forget about him and young people gravitating towards the PPP and red T-shirts, and forget, that's just smokescreen. We will stay on the heels of this serious allegations of interference in murder probes and abduction probes by Jack Dale and by Irfan Ali and by senior members of the Guyana Police Force, and now this hefty bank account allegations, hefty bank account in China. But for now, I've got to go. It's 8:49. My name is Mark Betcha. God bless you all on this beautiful Sunday evening. Pray for Guyana. If you haven't voted yet, elections over in the United States, early voting started yesterday. Saturday. It continues. Go out and vote. Do the right thing. Vote. I'm out of here until tomorrow evening. God bless you.
Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, yes, he is a friend of ours.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. And while you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fear in the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment. And you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big show.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Vietnam. And since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my ex next to the cop. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by that.